Welcome, friends. This is another life lesson from That Helpful Dad. Now, here on YouTube and also on my blog, That Helpful Dad, we go through lots of life lessons like this. So if you enjoy this sort of thing, I would encourage you to subscribe to us here on YouTube. Or again, go to the blog. You can get the tips by email if you'd like to read them that way. Everything I talk about on the video is actually in written format. And I've got lots of different ebooks and such that I give away to my readers for free. So check that out as well, too. But let's get into our video here today, and that is 4 tips to spend more time on your legacy life goals. You know, one of the things I often talk about in my videos and my articles is, are we living a legacy life, right? Are you just pursuing time suck activities that don't matter in the grand scheme of things, or are you spending your time on living your legacy life? And so, one of the best quotes I heard years and years ago, I don't even remember who said it, is this, and that is, where you spend your time, that's where your heart is, right? And so let's kind of talk about this concept and kind of unpack this a little bit right here. Let me ask you some questions, right? So are you satisfied with how you spend the majority of your time? Does the time you spend each day accurately reflect the priorities you've set for yourself? Are you planning, how do you know you're spending time on your legacy life goals? If the answer is no to one or more of those questions, it might be a good idea to reevaluate things. So why is this important? Well, because time waits for no one. You know, in one of our prior discussions, in fact, I've got an article on this too, is really here. There's no guarantee of tomorrow, right? If you don't enjoy life now, right, you don't spend time on your legacy life goals, that's going to be a problem, because the only thing that we know for certain is that we are alive right now in this moment. So if you spend all your time trying to get rich, or you're watching cat videos on Facebook, or you're doing any number of time suck activities that aren't aligned with your true hopes and dreams in life, then you're really robbing yourself, and really anyone else that's invested in that goal, of the precious time that you have for your life, right? So, there's only so many sands in the hourglass of life. Don't let them slip away. And unfortunately, unlike that hourglass, you can't just flip it over and get more time, because regardless of how you use your time, you can never get it back. So actually, talked about where that quote was from. Now I'm starting to remember here. I love reading Proverbs and the Gospels, and I think there's a lot of wisdom there. And Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, verse 21, and Luke chapter 12, verse 34, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think, for many of us, it's fair to say that our desired treasures in life would be things like family, or your legacy life goals, or your, just kind of being happy, writing the all-American novel, whatever it is for you, right? But unfortunately, it's all too easy to become ensnared by the cares of the world, right? And so when that happens, we find ourselves giving away our time to tasks that don't support our legacy life goals. And worse yet, we often don't discover that until it's too late. So sure, we all need money in order to eat and to have a house. And, probably the biggest maybe time suck activity that impedes your ability to spend time on your legacy life goals relates to maybe, the pursuit of income to provide for your family. And so by no means am I suggesting that you quit your job, or, that you spend all of your time on your legacy life goals. Although I'll tell you what, you might find yourself happier if you did, and I'd be your biggest fan. Sadly, that option is not really available for most people, myself included. But what I am saying is that you should be consciously aware of how you spend your time, especially if your free time is limited. Every day there are multiple decision points that you could probably choose to take a break from your non-legacy life tasks and spend more time on your legacy goals. So I want to give you 4 ideas for how to do that, right? So here's number 1. The intraday just because. I'm going to go back to this here as I'm talking, right? So intraday just because. So let's say you get a spare moment at work, maybe even an hour. Why not give a quick call to your wife or one of your kids just to say hello? Or better yet, could you meet up for lunch, right? If you took your wife to lunch, or your significant other, or your husband, whoever the case may be, or you went to school and had lunch with your kids, think of the happiness that surprise would give to them. Would that really impede your workday? It depends on what your job is, but I would say for a lot of people, it probably would not. And I'll tell you what, it would make you a winner at the game of life with your family, right? So that's number 1, the intraday just because. Okay, maybe you can't do that. How about number 2? Everybody can do this, and that is, don't just be there, be present. So when you're on weekends or you're down in your free time and you find yourself thinking about work while you're with your family, stop, right? Instead, practice being present, being totally focused on whatever that activity is that you're doing with your family. If you're there but not really there with your family, they're going to know. And when that happens, it's kind of like making a mental error in baseball, right? You went through all the trouble to put yourself in position to make a great play, but you end up flubbing it because you weren't paying attention. You didn't get your glove all the way on the ground. You didn't look where you were throwing the ball, right? As a result, you let your team down. That sucks, right? But you can avoid that in the game of life, and you can be an all-star if you simply practice being present. And then you can make the most of that precious and limited time that you have. Remember Jesus' advice, right? He said, here's another way to translate that, right? He said, where your heart is, or he said, actually, let's see, where your treasure is, there your heart is also. I would submit to you that you could say, where your mind is, there your heart is also. Where is your mind? Is it on your legacy goals or is it somewhere else? Let's get it back on the legacy goals. Number 3, manage time suck activities with a plan, right? So let's be mindful when we're at work and things are running over schedule. Let's pay attention when you know you're doing something that's wasting your time. It's way too easy to burn an hour or 2 or more on things that don't support your goals. And before you know it, all that free time you thought you had is gone. Now, I'm not saying you got to be a robot, but I would challenge yourself to ask yourself a couple questions. Is this time suck activity I'm doing now something that can be deferred until tomorrow? Do I really need to watch that cat video for the 10th time, right? Do I need to spend another hour sharing it and rewatching it with everyone, I know, right? Or how about this one? Do I really need to reset my fantasy football lineup again? Does it really make a difference, right? Look, I'm guilty of all these things. Maybe not the cat videos, but, all the other things, right? I'm not trying to be preachy here, but I am trying to say let's just be aware together that we have this issue and we can help each other. Time suck is a constant battle, but it's one that we can win if we're aware of it and we use simple planning techniques to manage that. And one of the simplest of all is just kind of to use a daily plan. It allows you to compartmentalize your activities into time slots. And this might be able to satisfy your need to goof off because you can schedule some goof off time. And it also will allow you to focus on your life goals. I have a friend of mine who's got a blog called the Meta Learners. It's a great blog, and he wrote a wonderful article on the 80-20 rule and the concept of how you manage your time. Obviously that's the kind of the Pareto principle. He didn't make this up, but he got a great article about it. I encourage you to read that there. Here's the website at the Meta Learners. But that is number 3, manage time suck with a plan, right? So what's number 4? It's climbing the mountain every day. So if you have specific life goals that are related to your accomplishments, like I said, writing a book, learning a language, being a better cook, why not build those into your daily plan? Work on them each day, and you're going to find yourself going faster and faster towards reaching your goal in the long run. If you focus on it, you will do it. The problem is if you keep deferring your legacy life goals until you have time, quote unquote, all too often you won't ever make time. And before you know it, that all-important dream that you once had is now 5 or 10 years old with little advancement. It doesn't have to be that way. If you work a little bit on your goals each day, you can climb that mountain. And one of the simplest ways to reach your legacy life goals is to, again, build it into your morning routines. Do you have a morning routine? Do you know what that is? I've got another article and video about this called the Smart Morning Routine for working men and women. This is something you can do in as little as 30 minutes each morning. Get this done, give yourself a plan, and you can really see your productivity skyrocket. So check that out. I'll put that in the show notes as well too. But the bottom line is the possibilities are endless. But either you control your time or it would control you. So here's the deal, right? If you want to spend more time on your legacy life goals, consider using the 4 tips I gave you today. And just to summarize, it's the intraday just because. Number 2 is don't just be there, be present. Number 3 is manage time suck with a plan. And number 4 is climb that mountain every day, right? If you do those things, you will get more out of life. And the reason why is because you will keep your legacy life goals in mind. So So I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Please, share your comments with me. If you like life lessons like this, go over to the blog. You can see lots of life lessons like this, and hopefully they'll be helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and God bless you.